Homeowners here across the Twin Tiers are once again bracing for the possibility of heavy rain and flash flooding tonight. And with the ground already saturated with water, the rain is likely to move out much faster onto the roads. The DOT is diverting all traffic onto Route 81 north here, then having them get off at exit 5 towards Front Street, including neighboring wooded areas several times after a report of a woman screaming in the early morning hours. I want to show you what we're dealing with here on top of this snow. Take a look if I can get a good chunk of it. I am joined by Bill Wigner, who's been out since 6:30 this morning. How are the roads doing right now? A few dozen people are here. Take a look at the line. Some people have been out since 1 this morning. Other people out since 5 this morning. Everyone dressed in layers. Verizon's giving away free hats. I'm now joined by Stephanie Jump. You've been out here since 5. You're the first one online. How does it feel this morning? Everyone who enters the Broome County office building must go through security, including the media. But in places like Vestal Town Hall, anyone can just walk through the doors to get inside. Traditionally, Tax Day falls on April 15th, but this year it's Emancipation Day, a city holiday celebrated in Washington, D.C. So taxes must be filed this year by Monday, April 18th, giving people a day or two more to get that paperwork postmarked. Good afternoon, I'm Leigh. Thanks for joining us. Those stories and more, but we begin this afternoon with a Kirkwood man sentenced. Good evening, Candace. Well, the sun has soaked up much of the water from last night's storm, but some signs are still visible. Take a look here on Oakdale Road in Johnson City. You can see the cars now coming and driving across gravel and dirt where water once spewed down the street, gushing onto the street. Many homeowners here in Johnson City and across the Twin Tiers have been washing their driveways all day, cleaning up after Mother Nature's muddy mess. But for some families in Tioga County, the storm was much more severe. Flash flooding wipes out this bridge in the town of Owego. Water rushed from the creek off Gaylord Road, making its way around the home of the Burchard family. This was a picture taken of the flash flooding last night.
It just sounded like a huge river just flowing through everything and crashing. It happened so fast because everything clogged up.
Burchard says flooding from this storm is worse than when her home was hit by the flood of 2006. Mud made its way into her garage. Her van dries out from the water that at one point was as high as the doors.
The gas tank on the side of the house got washed away, and it luckily stayed attached to the gas line, but if it had broke, it could have exploded.
Crews are now clearing out the creek and planning to put in a new drain pipe as quickly as possible. Nearly a dozen neighbors across the street, including the Meyer family, are stranded until it's fixed and the bridge is rebuilt. Burchard says she's been calling the town for the last 5 years to clean out the creek and remove tree limbs and big rocks.
It's been a battle. Every time it rains, we have this problem. Each time it gets worse and worse. This time something has to happen. We can't go through this anymore.
And Candace, many homeowners here across the Twin Tiers are once again bracing for the possibility of heavy rain and flash flooding tonight. And with the ground already saturated with water, the rain is likely to move out much faster onto the roads. We are live in Johnson City. Leigh, WBNG TV, Action News. Candace. For the Vestal Volunteer Emergency Squad, the cost for gas is getting extremely expensive. We hit the road with Assistant Chief of Operations Stephen McGargle to fill up the tank of one of its 4 ambulances.
In the past, we were telling the crews to make sure that they filled up at a half a tank. Now we've extended that out to 3/4 of a tank to try to get more miles out of each tank of fuel or gas.
Up the price goes at $4.37 a gallon, getting steeper each time McGargle gets his hands on the pump.
Seems to go up every day.
On Wednesday, it cost $156.
These get filled up probably twice a week, so you're looking at $300 a vehicle times 4 vehicles.
While many of Vestal's ambulance crews are on duty 24 hours a day, to keep costs down, McGargle asks them to consolidate errands.
If we stop for lunch, stop on the way back from the hospital. Don't make a special trip.
But it's special trips for the volunteers that's keeping some of them away from coming into work because of the rising cost of fuel.
They're not being paid to be here, and I wouldn't say so much as going on calls and responding to calls in their personal vehicles, but even coming down for extra trainings or extra meetings.
So far, Vestal's EMS has not had a problem paying for gas.
We've done okay. But, you know, we'll have to see what the future holds.
Each year, it keeps adding more money to its fuel budget, hoping that will cover it without passing any cost on to its patients. In Vestal, Leigh, WBNG TV Action News. Garbage, feces, mold found inside this Nealpath complex in West Endicott after it was discovered a 12-year-old girl was abandoned by her aunt 2 weeks earlier.
No child should be left unsupervised for that period of time.
Don Bowersox is the Deputy Commissioner for Broome County's Child Protective Services. He says more than 300 cases of child abuse and neglect are reported every month, ranging from lack of supervision, inadequate guardianship, to substance abuse. In the last 3 years, CPS has seen an increase of the number of child abuse and neglect reports called in following the death of Maine Enwell student 12-year-old Peter Monk.
Initially, we saw about a 40% increase, and then after that, on an annual basis, about 15%.
In the case of this 12-year-old girl left alone inside her West Endicott apartment, it was a neighbor who reported it to authorities. Child Protective Services says most of the time it's school officials. A spokesperson for the Union Endicott School District tells Action News school officials are mandated by law to report any suspicion of child abuse or neglect to CPS. UE stated no one at the school noticed anything unusual about the girl. Neither did neighbors until she spoke up and told one of them.
She'd be outside running around with the neighborhood kids. You know, I'd come outside and talk to her and see what she was doing. She was playing with kids, minding her own business, not causing any trouble.
Signs may not always be obvious, but Child Services urges anyone who notices anything suspicious, even just curious about child's welfare, to report it. Leigh, WBNG TV Action News.